The tale begins in Edge City, where Stanley Ipkiss, an unfortunate and painfully shy bank clerk, lives a humdrum life of humiliation. One day, he receives an exciting invitation to the glamorous Coco Bongo nightclub from his lively friend Charlie. It seems like a chance for Stanley to break free from his dull existence. But fate has other plans. Enter Tina Carlisle, a mesmerizing blonde singer at Coco Bongo, who graces Stanley's bank with her presence. Nervous and smitten, Stanley helps her open an account, unaware that Tina is no ordinary customer. Hidden in her bag is a camera, and Tina is on a mission for her gangster boyfriend, Dorian Tyrell. The goal? Capture footage to help Dorian and his crew plan a heist that will fund his grand ambition, overthrowing his boss, Nico, and claiming Coco Bongo for himself. Later, Stanley tries to pick up his car from the repair shop, but his ride isn't ready. Instead, the mechanics hand him a junk car that looks like it barely survived the apocalypse. Still determined to attend Coco Bongo, Stanley drives to the club, only to be denied entry by a bouncer who clearly skipped charm school. Heartbroken and dejected, Stanley heads home, but the clunker of a car breaks down on a bridge. Frustrated, he kicks the heap of metal, sending parts of it into the river. But in the murky depths lies destiny, or rather, an old wooden mask. Thinking it's a drowning victim, Stanley dives in, only to fish out the strange artifact. He takes it home, not knowing his life is about to take a wild turn. That night, curiosity gets the better of Stanley, and he tries on the mask. In an instant, he's transformed into a cartoonish superhero with a green head and physics-defying powers. The timid clerk is gone, replaced by a bold, mischievous force of nature. His first night as the Mask is a chaotic carnival of hilarity and justice. He silences his alarm clock with a comically oversized mallet, punches holes in his floor, and terrifies his grumpy landlady, Mrs. Peenman, who mistakes him for a burglar and fires a gun at him. Undeterred, the Mask uses a bicycle horn to shatter the windows of a passing car, takes down a street gang, and exacts sweet revenge on the mechanics who wronged him. The next morning, Stanley wakes up, convinced it was all a dream, until Lieutenant Kellaway shows up, investigating the bizarre events of the night. Flustered, Stanley plays innocent and even tosses the Mask out the window. But like a boomerang, the Mask refuses to leave him, returning to his apartment with a vengeance. Meanwhile, the mechanics are found badly beaten, drawing the attention of nosy reporter Peggy Brandt. Sensing a juicy story, Peggy visits Stanley at work, making flirtatious advances while angling for an interview. Elsewhere in the city's dark underbelly, Dorian's mutinous plans come to light. Nico, his boss, summons him for a friendly chat, which ends with Dorian humiliated, forced to hold a golf ball in his mouth while Nico tees off. The warning is clear. Dorian has 1 week to leave the city, or face certain death. That night, haunted by dreams of Tina, Stanley awakens restless. Desperate for a change, he dons the mask once more. Needing cash to make his Coco Bongo debut, the Mask robs Stanley's own bank, arriving moments before Dorian's crew. With stolen riches in hand, the Mask waltzes into the nightclub, ready to take the stage. Inside, Tina's sultry performance captivates the Mask, who can't help but steal the spotlight. His wild, magnetic dance moves sweep Tina off her feet, and for a brief, heart-stopping moment, she falls for the enigmatic green-headed hero. Their chemistry is electric, culminating in a passionate kiss that leaves the audience, and Tina, breathless. But their fairy tale moment is cut short when Dorian and his goons arrive, furious to find the Mask has foiled their heist. A showdown ensues, with Dorian's men firing at the Mask, only to be outmaneuvered by his zany, cartoonish antics. Bullets ricochet, and chaos reigns until Lieutenant Kellaway storms in, forcing the Mask to flee. Dorian, now under suspicion for the robbery, is cornered by the authorities. But the wily detective finds a clue, a piece of Stanley's shredded pajamas from the Mask's outfit, sparking suspicions that the mild-mannered bank clerk may be more involved than he lets on. The next morning, Detective Kellaway returns to Stanley Ipkiss's apartment with the energy of a man on his 5th cup of coffee, banging on the door like it owes him money. Ipkiss, who is still trying to recover from his chaotic night, panics and instinctively opens the wardrobe where he stashed the stolen bank money. Barely managing to shove it back in, he opens the door, facing Kellaway, who dangles a scrap of Stanley's pajamas like it's Exhibit A in a courtroom drama. Know anything about a masked lunatic wearing these? Kellaway interrogates. Stanley nervously claims his pajamas were stolen. Suspicious, but with no hard evidence, Kellaway decides to keep a closer eye on him. Meanwhile, crime boss Dorian Tyrell calls a meeting with his henchmen and announces a $50,000 bounty to anyone who can retrieve the Mask, turning the city's criminal underbelly into a treasure hunt. Stanley, now rattled and desperate for answers, visits Dr. Arthur Newman, a self-proclaimed mask expert he saw on TV. Newman enthusiastically explains that the mask likely represents Loki, the Norse god of mischief, who was banished from Valhalla for being an eternal prankster. But when Stanley describes the mask's supernatural effects, Newman dismisses him, thinking it's a joke. To prove him wrong, Stanley attempts to activate the mask, only to discover it's as lifeless as a deflated balloon in the daytime. Frustrated, he leaves no wiser than before. Meanwhile, Detective Kellaway receives a game-changing tip. The fingerprints on the bank robbery money match Stanley's. Determined to see Tina again, Stanley arranges a meeting under the pretense that his friend, the Mask, will show up. Donning the mask once more, he transforms into his wild, unfiltered alter ego. However, his over-the-top antics during the rendezvous scare Tina, leaving her visibly shaken. As if things couldn't get worse, Stanley is promptly arrested by Kellaway and Sergeant Doyle. But before the cops could catch him, Peggy Brandt, a seemingly sympathetic reporter, helps him escape, only to hand him over to Tyrell for the bounty. Tyrell takes possession of the mask, putting it on with a maniacal laugh. Transformed into a monstrous version of himself, he ties up Stanley and sends his goons to raid Stanley's apartment, retrieving the stolen money. Stanley, tied up in the car, manages to get Milo's attention. The loyal little dog chases the car carrying his master, proving once again that dogs are truly man's best friend. At Tyrell's orders, Stanley is thrown out of the car right in front of the police station, where he's promptly arrested by Kellaway. In prison, Tina visits Stanley and reveals Tyrell's plan to attack a charity ball at the Coco Bongo. Now aware that Tyrell possesses the mask, she pleads for a solution. Stanley explains that the mask amplifies the wearer's deepest desires, making it clear just how dangerous Tyrell has become. He urges Tina to flee, but Tyrell's henchmen intercept her outside the prison, forcing her to accompany them to the ball. Back in his cell, Stanley enlists Milo for a daring escape. The clever dog climbs the prison wall, retrieves the keys, and helps Stanley free himself. Stanley seizes a guard's weapon and takes Kellaway hostage, commandeering a car to race to the Coco Bongo. At the Coco Bongo, chaos reigns as Tyrell, wearing the mask, storms in like a supervillain out of a comic book. He blows up the gates, challenges his rival Nico to a deadly shootout, and triumphantly kills him. Tyrell then ties Tina to a bomb with a 10-minute timer, preparing for a finale that would make any action movie jealous. Stanley sneaks into the club, but is immediately spotted by Tyrell's henchman, Orlando. Meanwhile, Tina uses her quick thinking to distract Tyrell. She seductively convinces him to kiss her as the real Dorian, sans mask. During the kiss, she cunningly kicks the mask into the air, where Milo, now the MVP of the night, snatches it mid-jump. As Tyrell's men try to wrestle the mask away from Milo, Stanley engages Tyrell in a no-holds-barred fight. Despite being outmatched, Stanley lands a precise punch that sends Tyrell crashing into a slot machine, momentarily incapacitating him. Seizing the opportunity, Stanley grabs the mask from Milo, puts it on, and transforms into his zany, heroic self. With mere seconds to spare, Stanley swallows the bomb like it's an oversized vitamin and conjures a giant drain to flush Tyrell away, bringing the chaos to a dramatic end. As the dust settles, Kellaway tries to arrest Stanley yet again, but the mayor intervenes, declaring Stanley a hero for saving the city. In the film's heartwarming finale, Stanley, Tina, Charlie, and Milo stand on a bridge overlooking the river. Tina, now fully charmed by the real Stanley, tosses the mask into the water, declaring they don't need it anymore. As the couple embraces, Charlie dives after the floating mask, only to lose it to Milo, who swims away with his new favorite toy, leaving the group laughing as the credits roll. And that's The Mask, a whirlwind of chaos, comedy, and action wrapped in a mischievous green package. From jaw-dropping transformations to heart-racing showdowns, this movie proves that even the unlikeliest hero can save the day, with a little help from his dog. If you love the mix of slapstick humor, larger-than-life characters, and non-stop entertainment, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more epic recaps, only on Movies Unboxed.